airplanes. And of course, the star of the show is JB's Cessna 195. Welcome. I'm Kathy Hansen, president of the Mojave Transportation Museum. We're in our 11th year of Plain Crazy Saturday. Hard to believe, but we have been doing this a long time. But I want to introduce you to our speaker. There was something else I wanted to say. What was it? Oh, well, I'm old, I can't remember. James Brown III, he graduated Virginia Military Institute, served in the U.S. Air Force flying F-4 Phantoms and the F-5E Tiger IIs. In 1985, he attended the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School out here at Edwards and graduated with class 86A. 86, that's a good number. He tested the A-7 Corsair too, all models of the F-15 Eagle, pretty good, and performed flight trials on a number of classified prototype aircraft. After his Air Force career, he flew 737s with United Airlines for a couple of years and then hired on at Lockheed Martin in 1994. He was a Lockheed Martin test pilot with the F-117 program for 8 years. That's cool. And then transferred as lead F-22A Raptor test pilot in January 2010. He became the first test pilot to reach 1,000 flight hours in the F-22. Good Lord, would you do flight every day for 8 hours?
A lot of arm wrestling.
I see. If you include his hours in the F-117, he has more flight time in stealth jets than any other pilot in the world. I think that's pretty neat. Yay! He's real stealthy. He retired from Lockheed in 2015 and now serves as Vice President and Chief Operations Officer at the National Test Pilot School right here at Mojave Air and Spaceport. He's going to tell us about the school makeup, the operations here, and describe some of the unique aircraft that they operate here at Mojave Air and Spaceport. Please welcome J.B. Brown.
Go ahead and run the video there, Andy.
The National Test Pilot School is the world's premier total flight test training and education organization. And that may be a lofty thing to say, but when you look at our wide variety of curriculum and programs that we offer, there's no other organization in the world that encompasses the total flight test training and education programs that we do.
We're called the National Test Pilot School, but we could quite literally be called the world's Test Pilot School because we have students who come from literally all over the world.
The excitement here at NTPS is that every day we are training the test pilots and flight test engineers of the future who will make a difference in the aviation industry.
To improve the flight test community and safety for the flying public as a whole.
Here at the National Test Pilot School, we're improving worldwide aviation and flight test safety, and one test pilot graduate and one flight test engineer graduate at a time.
So Hollywood can make anything happen. Slide. All right, so quick overview of the school. I've been in operation since 1981, 39th year in operation, continuous operation. There are other civilian test pilot school out there, but they've had various bouts with bankruptcy, etc. We do flight test education and training. We are not a FAA, go get a private pilot's license type of school. We just do flight test work. Private, nonprofit. We are governed by a board of trustees. Our graduates earn Master of Science degrees. Do research and development, some flight test support, consulting, kind of the sideline stuff. Every year we do a summer flight test academy. We get kids from the local high schools. I think it's about 20 of them, I think. They come and they spend a week with us and we kind of show them what flight test is all about. And we have a graduate assistant program. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, slide.
Sir, would you prefer to hold all the questions to the end of your presentation?
just blurt them out. Let's just go for it, okay?
Well, I'm just kind of curious, is the emphasis of the school more on testing the aircraft or just training the pilots to test the aircraft?
We are training the pilots and engineers to test the airplanes. Okay? All the airplanes we use are certified, they're well past their test programs. Yeah, we kind of know the answers when we give them a challenge. It's not the most modern fleet. We're not flying F-16s, F-22s, stuff like that. But what we're teaching is the methodology and the process, the discipline of flight test. That's probably the most important thing. A lot of our stuff is restricted by the State Department because we have foreigners. We're not able to teach using the most modern of night vision goggles, for instance. But we're not teaching them what the latest technology is. We're teaching them, here's a piece of technology, here's how to go test it. Okay? Let's see here. We have numerous accreditations and certifications. We were the first test pilot school in the world to be certified by the European Aviation Safety Agency, EASA. Because in Europe, you got to have a test pilot rating to do flight tests. And we were the first school to qualify to do that education stuff. ABAT, BPPE, those are our master's degree things. ISO 9001 is a business practices type of thing. CVIS, since we have foreign students, we're part of the Student Exchange Visitor Program, so we have to carry that certification, and then SETP and SFTP as well. Okay, next. Our mission, educate and train test pilots to improve flight test and aviation safety. And also, it's international mix, and we've got Koreans working with Thai, with Germans, Australians, Italians. They're all working together in their little teams for the different challenges, and we're fostering international relations in that manner. It gets a little fun during the Olympics and during the World Cup. They all start poking at each other. And but the funniest thing I ever heard was the Italian goes, "Hey, we got the 7 gold medals," and the Israeli guy goes, "We're small, we don't care." It's a really interesting mix, and everybody seems to get along well. We haven't had the opportunity to have, say, a Chinese and a South Korean, or Chinese and Taiwanese yet. We'll see if that type of stuff ever happens. Core values: honesty, integrity, objectivity, safety, teaching, mentoring, teamwork, and what I'd say is open kimono. All of our stuff is online. You can go to our website. You can see all the details of the courses, all the prices. We advertise the prices, and it's transparency in our operation. Okay, next.
So you're not really teaching anything that's classified. You're just teaching skills that any test pilot should have.
That's right. That's right. Nothing classified. We're totally unclassified operation. Let's see here. Why to have a test pilot school? Well, there's a need. People are building new airplanes. They need to be certified. They need to be tested, proven safe for the flying public. I don't think any of you, we can throw out 737 MAX as a bad example, but that's deeper than just this conversation. It's safety, research, national security. The vast bulk of our students are foreign military. It's not a cheap school to go to, so you got to have a pretty rich sugar daddy to send you. I said science, discipline, methodology. Next slide. Okay, we're not a flight school. The FAA doesn't really know what to do with us because nobody's in pursuit of a rating. We don't administer any of the FAA exams or anything like that. Technically, we don't need to be flight instructors, CFIs, because we're not teaching that type of stuff. However, we've gone down the path to keep them off our backs. So all the instructors are CFIs.
But again, you're not teaching anybody basic flying skills. These are all relatively qualified pilots that come to learn.
Well qualified pilots, yes. We do have a program where we let the flight test engineers fly. We'll take them up in the Cessna 172 and put them in the left seat and let them, it's kind of like Pilot Appreciation Week. let them try to take off and land, fly the airplane around. But none of that is in pursuit of a license. Graduate culture, we foster a professional flight test environment, so the year they spend with us, they see the same processes and discipline that they would see when they go back to their home. Okay, next. Typical student, test pilots, 750 hours pilot command. Typically we get 1,000 to 1,500 hours. Pilots tend to be in their young 30s, 33, 34, something like that. Flight test engineers, we've had a couple of kids come straight from the Italian Air Force Academy. Their first active duty assignment is to come to test pilot school. Young kids are all full of energy, and that's kind of fun. We require a level of English speaking and comprehension. This TOEFL is an online test for English comprehension. Pilots have to speak better English than the engineers. Typically,
Better English than high school grade Americans.
We're pretty bad in that category. Our Europeans, Australians are a little shaky. The Pacific Rim folks, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Chinese, they're the ones that tend to have weaker English skills. And we find as instructors that if you're flying along and if you stray the least bit away from ICAO standard English terminology, they kind of cloud up, So you don't say 13, you say 1-3.
That's also very important because they're also in, very intense critical situations at times, I guess.
Yeah, and if you're giving an instruction, if you tell a guy to go around, he needs to understand that and go around now, right? Because things are not going well. So if we have trouble with a student, typically it's English comprehension. We actually have a contract with Berlitz, and we'll teach English class. And we'll bring them in. If they know the student's having a problem, we'll bring them in for 6 weeks. We had one guy we had in a 6-month program to build up his English skills. And also we have students that are just there for the master's degree. They're just there for the academics, and they walk out with a master's degree. Next slide. 2 types of master's degrees, MS in Flight Test Engineering and MS in Flight Test and Evaluation. If the student has an undergraduate engineering degree, they get the Flight Test Engineering. If they don't, like history or something like, we had an Israeli guy that was a lawyer. They get the Flight Test and Evaluation degree. The training is 100% the same. It's just different criteria to administer the program. All right? Let's see. Okay, next slide. So, what do you need to have for a test pilot school, to be an effective test pilot school? A highly experienced staff of instructors, a dedicated fleet of airplanes. In a fleet, we're talking variety. We're not talking 20 Cessna 182s. We're talking 20 that would represent 15 or 16 different types of airplanes. Relevant, diverse courses, the facilities, the airspace, and of course, you got to have the customers, right? Somebody's got to pay the bills to keep the lights on. Next slide. So as far as instructors, got 2 of them here, Mark Swady in the back and Andy Edgel, flipping slides back there. So if any heckling is coming, I know it's going to come from those 2 guys.
Wait, that one guy looks a little young over there.
I'll take that as a compliment.
He aged quite a bit trying to land the 195. He looked like a 13-year-old when we took off. 13 full-time, 6 part-time instructors. Mark has kind of done his tenure and told us that he'd rather go fly his rocket around than
And
around
it's
the
so pretty. Oh my God, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. It is. Typical instructors, a retired military officer, master's degree or higher. We have a handful of PhD instructors. Plenty of flight test experience, plenty of instructional experience. And the big advantage National has over Air Force Test Pilot School and Navy Test Pilot School, Empire and EPNA in Europe, is that our instructors have had essentially a career in flight test. The military schools, you'll have a guy who'll go 2 years to test, and then they suck him back into school to be an instructor. So the wealth of experience in the school is really incredible. Mostly international. 80% of the instructors are international. There's a listing of the countries. We get really up close and personal with the Customs and Border Patrol and all those guys. We've got a Brazilian guy we've hired, and it's been like 6 months working on his visa to get it so he can come in. Okay, next. There's a list of the schools. Of course, Virginia Military at the top of the list. The boss is from West Point, so he and I, whoever gets the briefing last, those two tend to change. Everybody's a test pilot school graduate, and you see the different test pilot schools there. Okay, next. All right, let's talk about the airplanes, this fleet of airplanes. T-38 is kind of that's the fancy flagship. You can see the tail number 638 Tango Charlie. We bought it from Chuck Thornton down in Van Nuys. The airplane, the 6 represents the 6 T-38s that were stripped to make this one. The fuselage was involved in an accident up in Chicago, and then he bought the Hulk and rebuilt it. It's a Star Stage and Screen. It was in a whole bunch of like Pepsi commercials. You see we can have poured Pepsi in the jet? That's our T-38. Dragnet, it was in that and stuff like that. So it's got its own SAG cart.
What's the plane built, this plane? What year was this plane born?
In the early 60s. I think 62,
Because I
63.
heard like pilots today, they flew in the same plane as their grandparents.
Possibly.
And our former military.
Yeah. I mean, the Air Force is just now trying to replace this with the T-7, I think it's called, the Red Hawk, the Boeing airplane.
Yeah, but the T-38.
The T-7. T-7, yeah.
Yeah, but that's been the primary flight training vehicle for decades.
Yeah, this thing's been, it's the advanced trainer, and it's been in service teaching since about 65, I think.
Built by Northrop Grumman.
Yep.
Very similar to the F5,
Yeah. We teach, as you might imagine, the airplanes fly a little different as you proceed through transonic to supersonic flight, so we're teaching that part of the curriculum. They'll actually measure the stick deflections and control forces as we accelerate to supersonic. And so typically, in a level acceleration, subsonic, as you go faster, the stick's going to migrate forward, right? Less angle of attack as you go faster. As you transit supersonic, the stick will move forward, it moves aft, and then moves forward again to maintain level flight. So we're teaching them that. The airplane rolls at about 700 degrees a second.
It's
So
amazing.
roll performance is something that we show the students. Jet cruise performance, things like that. Okay, next slide. Is MiG, throwing like bull. Is the newest airplane to our fleet. This was a Czechoslovakian airplane. It rolled off the production line in '72. Talked about this airplane, I don't know, what, 4 or 5 years ago here, Kathy?
Right. You flew it across the country.
Yeah, got an opportunity to fly this thing from Delaware to here. It'll fly for about, with an oversized centerline tank, it'll fly for about an hour. Yeah, 400 miles in the west, 7 flights from Delaware. But you pull up to an FBO, people come right on out and say hi.
I'm sorry, what's the name of this plane?
It's a MiG-21.
Oh, big. That's what I thought. It looked like a MiG, so.
Yep. The Eastern Bloc aircraft are designed and built with a kind of a different philosophy than our airplanes. So this is part of the variety that you show a test pilot. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and they do different things, right? The airplane's got air brakes, big handle on the stick, no nose wheel steering. You use differential braking to taxi the airplane around. Mach 2.05, pretty fast little machine, but you do that real close to the airport.
Yes.
Now, the flight manual, you read the flight manual, it says if you're going to do the high, fast profile, make sure you're pointed back toward home before you land.
Commercial planes on Soviet Aeroflot, they take up, they just take off like a rocket, really angled. And the luggage compartment, they didn't have a luggage compartment, they just had a rack like a bus. There's no safety, and they take off, but they're military pilots in the Soviet times, you know. And you can tell, this is kind of fun, you know.
You're more courageous than I am. Anyway, the airplane is down right now. We need to, if anybody has a R11 F2 SK300 engine, let me know. We're kind of beating the bushes.
We sold our MiG one.
Yeah, MiG engines aren't necessarily something you find sitting on the street corner. It had some maintenance problems with it, so yeah, right now it's kind of dusty. Next slide. The Impala, this is our jet that does the bulk of our training. It's a Air Mach-E 326, Italian design. We got our airplanes from South Africa. We're the only people in the world operating the airplane. It's a great trainer for loads, flutter, spins, out of control stuff. The airplane will do a tail slide and all that. It's very predictable, very easy to recover, and just a dead simple, honest little airplane. And as far as jets go, this one carries the load for the school. Okay, next. We got two L-39s, Eastern Bloc airplanes. We're integrating them into the curriculum, primarily performance, flying qualities, things like that. The airplane looks sexier than it is. Nice little pointy nose, but it's a little legless on the thrust and stuff. It's a good airplane. The air conditioner works. Okay, next. We have a Saberliner. The old T-39 equivalent for the Air Force. It is a flying laboratory. The airplane's instrumented, and we have computers in the seats in the back that the students use to monitor and analyze what the airplane's been doing. Great flying airplane. It was certified in the early 60s, and unlike business jets today that have a stall barrier system, a stick pusher, or prevent you from stall, we can take this airplane to the full stall, and it's usually eye-opening for what model? Ours is 60. I think I have pictures of 65. We have the trusty Merlin, square engine, kind of a commuter class twin turboprop airplane. It's instrumented, and it is a flying laboratory as well. Primarily used for pilostatic calibration work, stuff like that. Okay, next. Couple of King Airs. Typical stuff you do with a twin turboprop. One of them's got a radar. We do airborne radar testing with that, resolution work, ground mapping, things like that.
Is it pitot static or pitot static? Pitot.
Is it tomato or tomato?
Yeah. But the second T is silent, because isn't it spelled pitot? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
It is capital P, subcase TOT, standing for P total.
Designed by a guy into
He's a French guy, I guess.
French guy measuring floors and sewers.
In the sewers.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
There you go. It's a sewer airplane. Okay, next. Now we're into the single engine airplanes. We have three SR-22s. As far as the light plane stuff, these guys carry our load. I'll show you later on the statistics. We have a Generation 1, Generation 2, and Generation 3 airplane. Each one of them is serial number 1 of Generation 1, 2, and 3. They were the test airplanes in Cirrus. And you can get a pretty good price on a beat up, worn out test airplane nobody will ever buy. One of the most interesting things to do, they've got advanced cockpits. We've got Garmin 1000 and Avidyne cockpits. But if you can see on the wing here, one of the more interesting things we do is we will take the airplane, we'll do climb performance evaluation, and run through a stall series. Then we land, come back, Overnight, they'll put 60 grit sandpaper along the entire leading edge of the wings and the horizontal tail to simulate rime ice or pre-activation ice. Then would take the airplane off the next day and measure the climb performance and the stall performance. The difference is eye-watering. If you ever did get to do this sortie, you will never fly anywhere near ice again. It is really really eye-opening when we do that.
Canada, you get Canadian students?
Yes, yeah. Hey? Okay. Okay, next slide. We got like twins, got a Duchess, Diamond, and a Seneca that we use. Primarily minimal control speed airborne type of stuff. We actually shut down engines and measure the drag of the airplane. For fighter guys, it's really fun on the first time that they watch a propeller grind to a halt in flight. It's an emotional event for them.
I can imagine.
Even though you tell them, hey, man, this is getting ready to get your attention. Whoa. Okay, next.
Their feet on board.
We got 3 Cessna 182s. We got 3 of them. They're pretty new airplanes. So they've got the advanced cockpit. Primarily, we're doing the avionics testing and communication, navigation, stuff like that, using the advanced cockpits. Right, next. The mighty VA-8 Airvan. This is an Australian airplane built as a truck. The design mission of this thing is to carry, I think it's 6 200-liter or 55-gallon drums of fuel into the outback. In fact, with just 2 pilots on board, you're beyond the Ford CG limit. You got to put ballast in the airplane to go fly. Just a great airplane. It's one of these takes off at 60, cruises at 60, lands at 60 type of things. Very trusty. If you see on the bottom here, this the luggage rack, we have a infrared and it was just an infrared ball in there. It's both infrared and electro-optical TV ball in there, and we teach the test techniques for sensor systems using that. If you get a chance to see the, this Roton doofer here, the hangar that it was built in down at the other end of the flight line, on the side there's test patterns painted. And we fly the airplane against those test patterns, and you're measuring at what range does the test pattern resolve, so you can see. Okay? Just a great airplane to fly, a lot of fun. Right, next. 172 and a Comanche that we do basic stuff in. The 172, that's what we put the engineers in to let them fly. Kind of hard to break one. Okay. All right, next. We have a remotely piloted vehicle. It's a Cessna 150. We put it could fly unmanned, but the FAA paperwork and rigmarole to get that approved is just insane. So we put a safety pilot on board for the first 50 feet and the last 50 feet. And then it's flown from the control room. It also has, I don't know if you can see, bolted on the strut is a electro-optical system as well. So they can fly the airplane like a Predator or Reaper drone. You got one person flying it, the other one doing the sensor, looking around. We have a whole block of instruction on how to test unmanned vehicles. Next.
Do you test any jet drones?
Jet drones?
Yeah.
No.
You don't have any CIA.
You have any what?
You don't have any CIA.
And these are, we'll bring airplanes in, we'll lease, short-term lease, bring airplanes in for people to fly, to build that variety. At the end of the performance and flying qualities phase, we will assign the students an airplane and a mission, and they go out and evaluate that airplane. Example would be last year, the Vision Jet, the Cirrus Vision Jet, the detail thing. We took some guys to Duluth, Minnesota to fly that, and they tested it based on a maritime patrol type of mission. Take off, fly, 500 miles, descend, loiter 2 hours at sea level, fly the 500 miles back and land. Do you have the fuel to do that? Do the handling qualities, are they appropriate for flying around at low altitude, et cetera? Okay, next slide.
Did Italians build any planes
Yeah, they build F-35s in Italy.
No, I mean, they design, like a Ferrari, they built.
Yeah, the Air Monkey, the
Right
Impala, is
Pardon?
the Impala was
Impala
an
is
Italian
Italian
design.
design,
We have a fleet of helicopters. This is the boss's favorite. This is a slick little Airbus EC-145. Pretty new vehicle. Flying laboratories instrumented. Next, I'm not a helicopter guy, so we're going. We got the old reliable Huey.
Best
It's a
helicopter
flying
in the
laboratory as
world.
well. You see the pitot boom out there, and then inboard you've got different computer stations for the students. Next. There's the EO electro-optical ball here, and then you can see the displays. All right, next. This is the Augusta 109, retractable gear helicopter. Helicopter guys aren't used to raising and lowering gear handles, so usually a tension getter sometimes. Next, we have two OH-58s. It's the military version of the Jet Ranger helicopter. Handling qualities, night vision goggle work, and those. Okay, next. BO-105. These are relatively old helicopters, but they're pretty stalwart. All right, next. And we bring in other helicopters for people to fly. Right, next slide. Here's kind of the list. Yeah. Okay, next.
S-76.
So this is what we did over the last few years. Last 2019, 1,400 sorties out of Mojave here. I just got some numbers from the airport. The total civilian airplane operations was about 9,000 for 2019. So we're 20% of the total operation here. And
And as a
certainly
member
more
of
than
the
needed
airport
below.
board, we appreciate it.
I'm sorry?
As a member of the airport board, we appreciate it.
Oh, well, you're very welcome.
Lots of fuel.
And that in 19 was down from 2018, as you can see. Okay. Next. And here's our list of airplane types, and you can see that the Cirrus and the Cessna 182 carry the heavy load as far as the flying. The MiG's down here. Didn't fly in 2019. Okay, next. Let's see. All right, so courses. We got a variety of things we offer. We got the year-long professional course, short courses, master's degree only. The students just come do the academics and earn a master's degree. Then on-demand courses. Hartzell Propeller, they had an accident about a year ago. Didn't crash the airplane, but the propeller shredded or something like that, and the guy barely made it back onto the ground. That forced them to sit back and look at their processes, and they hired us to teach a course in Piqua, Ohio.
Yep.
But anyway, so we will actually travel to places. We taught some courses in Singapore not too long ago. Okay, next. So you got the year-long course. That is the EASA Category 1 Test Pilot Certification course. They earn a master's degree at the end of that. They're pretty happy to leave. We beat them up pretty much. Our course is actually longer and more intense than the Air Force and Navy courses. Then we have the year-long is broken down into 2 6-month segments, and people can come and do a 6-month set of the courses. And then we have a Category 2 course for EASA, which is primarily performance and handling qualities. Okay, next. Here's some of the short courses. Short courses go anywhere from 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks. And we have different things. Introduction to flight test, kind of an overview. Here's how you spell flight test, FLI. One of the more popular ones is this operational test and evaluation course. This is people that get thrown into a test and evaluation world, and they've got no experience or education. So it's a 3-week course to kind of show them that, yes, you're not a card-carrying test pilot, but here's the things you got to do as far as looking at the requirements, planning the mission, the safety, execution, and reporting at the end. We just finished yesterday It was a modified operational test evaluation course for the U.S. Space Force.
Excellent.
They sent 12 Air Force, active duty Air Force folks to us because things are getting ready to happen in space, folks. They got a test requirement and they don't have anybody that knows how to do tests. So these folks were the piece of corn, you know, to grow their test. They're actually talking about building a test pilot school at Edwards for the space stuff. It's the high ground. And there's so much emphasis on this. The commanding general from Edwards came and spent an hour with these guys.
Excellent.
Chatting with General Ansano. Okay, next. Technical pilot course. This is primarily for like a airline guy that gets put into doing check flights post maintenance or acceptance from the manufacturer type stuff. Functional check. Night vision goggles, pre-TPS. I don't know about you guys, but my calculus is a little rusty when I showed up to test pilot school. So this is a chance to knock the dust off of the engineering that you haven't thought about in years. Okay, next. Slide rule. These are just the different modules of the courses. You can see flying qualities, performance, advanced flight controls. You know, it's the fly-by-wire. You know, all of that stuff. Okay. Next. We train all of the FAA test pilots. When they get hired by the FAA, they come to us for a 6-week course. Typically, these guys are all test pilot school graduates to begin with, so it's just a refresher for them, and they get their heads back in the books. And then every 3 to 4 years, they come back to us to refresh for a 2-week course. We also teach them that icing course, the serious thing. Okay. Next. So to have a test pilot school, you got to have facilities. So here we are. This is 1230-0826 Taxiway Charlie to Alpha here, and we have these buildings here. That's the one that the Roton was built in, and the test pattern's up on this corner if you're taxiing around and looking. So plenty of facilities. Keep going. We've got classrooms, we've got simulators, we have a night vision goggle lab, EOIR stuff. We have a variable stability lab. This is a simulator that's kind of like dial an airplane. We can change the stick forces, the performance, the handling qualities of the airplane real time. So, you know, in one simulator session, the student can fly an infinite number of airplanes, just about. You know. And that lab is connected into our TM lab, which is mission control. That's where you got the screens and projecting all the information up on the walls and stuff. Okay, next. There's some of the things. And for the space course, the variable stability lab, we're able to do a space docking type of test. They're actually docking with the MiG. But they had their own little spaceship, and you know they're firing little thrusters to dock with the MiG, and we give them constraints on how much fuel they have, and give them 240 seconds, so it's at 4 minutes to accomplish the task. So you get the stress up a little bit, and let them evaluate that. That goes good. We use level D simulators, the same ones the airline guys use to conduct some of our exercises. And also we fly the CalSpan variable stability Learjet. Like I told you in our simulator, you could dial an airplane. That Learjet is the same way. You can change the characteristics as it flies. Very fantastic tool. We do that at the end of the performance and handling qualities phase. So we've been throwing all of this information at them, and a little disjointed, kind of drinking from the fire hose. They go up to one flight on the Learjet, and they get to see all of this stuff at once and touch it and feel it. And it's a great way to encapsulate the whole training program. Okay, next. Got to have airspace. We're in the agreement with Edwards, so we get to use all of the Edwards airspace up there. So it's huge. right? So what, 140 miles north-south, about 80 miles east-west. So plenty of room to go fly.
Takes you right up Owens Valley there.
Yep, we go right up Owens Valley, Death Valley, all around in there. We actually go into Edwards airspace, go supersonic. I'm sorry?
You fly your planes over Barstow all the way to Fort Ewing?
Barstow's a little bit outside the airspace. Barstow's over here.
Oh, okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
I see
So we primarily
contrails,
work
but I
over in
don't know
here.
where they're coming from.
Huh?
I see contrails from somebody. I thought it was military, but.
The high altitude supersonic corridor goes right over, that's the corridor right there.
Mhm.
So you're probably seeing people up in the high altitude
Yeah,
supersonic
there's a
corridor.
lot more in the last 2 years.
Mighty, mighty
More
raptors.
contrails, no chemtrails, it's contrails. I think it's military. You know.
Yeah, probably. And then we got the beautiful facility here. You know, three runways. We can fly our jets off of 2 out of the 3. And, you know, just a great place to do flight tests. The weather, you know, weather here is built for flight testing. All right, next. Just to show you, how many of y'all are aviators? Fly around here. Okay. Just to show you, if you hear a tiger talking to Joshua, that's us. We're tiger call signs. This is how we divide up the local airspace amongst ourselves. Nobody else uses this. This is how we keep ourselves deconflicted. You got Cone Lake, Honda Track, that big racetrack up there, Cal City. Here's the home drome. Then we have South Ponds, that's the crap factory for Lancaster. South Mines, the Tropico Mine, and then Southwest, which is the Antelope Valley out toward the west out there. East and west Fox areas. So if you hear Tiger and a light plane, probably, you know, working right in here. Okay. We typically, light planes working 8,000 feet and below. Our biggest issues are the people that are coming up, you know, they're staying west of 2515, headed up toward Bishop, Mammoth, whatever. A lot of traffic coming up through here. Over 40 countries have been represented at NTPS. There's a list of the recent ones. We typically have 20 to 25 students in the year-long professional course. Okay. For a pilot, it's about $1 million. And 990,000, something like that. 1 million is an emotional trigger point, and typically a bureaucratic trigger point as well. So we try to keep the price under those. A lot of our courses are $29.95 because 3,000 is a trigger point for a lot of organizations.
So you don't have any Saudis, is that because of the visas?
No, we don't have any Saudis because they haven't decided to come to school.
But they test, they have an Air Force, so I was curious.
Yeah, well, if you know some Saudis and they need test pilot training, tell them to give us a call. For short courses, we'll typically service around 250 to 300 students in a year. So it's a pretty busy place, right? Right, next. Here's our student makeup right now. The ones in blue are academics only. They're not flying, they're just there for master's degrees. But you see, it's a good mix. Typically apartments in town.
Yeah, are all your airplanes equipped with ADS-B? Is that a requirement?
We are compliant, yes.
Okay.
Including the MiG. Yeah. Okay, next. We have a graduate assistant program. These are kids that have just recently graduated from college, and we bring them in for a 3-year gig. And in that 3 years, they will graduate from test pilot school, they will earn a master's degree, and they'll have 3 years of flight test experience. We can't keep them for the full 3 years because industry is snagging them away from us. These are very valuable kids. They'll go through the course, they spend about half their time as students, the other half they're doing stuff for us, running the instrumentation, data processing. They run our simulators. The kid on the far right is the one that invented our space docking thing in the simulator. Bright kids, a lot of fun. Like any military squadron, you got to have the second lieutenants or the ensigns to stir the pot and cause trouble, right? They're our guys. They keep the organization. So you see, we've got the 7 elements, we've got the airplanes, we've got the students, we've got the facilities, the airspace, and all of that stuff.
Oh, how many field trips from the middle schools in the area you get to teach, just expose the children to what you're doing, even though they're not interested in being a pilot?
Not too many.
We need more, and people here need to run for school board.
Um,
Please.
We have to
For
run
our
a
children,
fine
run
line
for
between
school.
disruption of our curriculum
Yeah,
and
that's true,
running
but
tours
these
and stuff
children
like
aren't
that.
exposed. They're learning to put on a
Then they should come
condom.
to Plain Crazy, but
They're learning we're all bad. Our founding fathers were evil slave masters. You know, they're learning all this stuff in school, but they're not learning about you. And run for school board, because these school board people are really.
Spread the word.
Bunch of liberals.
Well, you
Right?
have to, you have to sacrifice
Yeah.
your children.
And I think the biggest thing is our students, when they graduate, the next day, they're ready to go do flight tests on the run.
Yeah.
They're trained, they're ready to go, they're up on the edge. Yes, sir.
I thought you had a DC-8.
We used to have a DC-3, a turbo DC-3, but the airplane was sold in 2016.
I see a DC-8 making touch and goes at Flight 42.
That's the NASA 880, right? Yeah. That's the NASA airplane.
I thought it was from you.
Okay, folks, yes, ma'am.
I'm a doctor, so I read the right stuff. And you know, where the pilots, they would lose all these pilots, and Chuck Yeager's day, you know, they left, the test pilot. And I saw, my daddy was a tail gunner, and most of his buddies died, because the Army Air Corps didn't really care. And in Chuck Yeager's day, you know, they lost all these men, the greatest generation. Anyhow, you said they 1,000 flights, you know, how did you survive? I guess the attitude towards survival and health, like your deafness and all that, it obviously changed. Yeah, yeah, obviously the attitude of like the Air Force and all these, that you're not kin-fathered, obviously it changed. So can you tell us a little bit about that, or are you?
All right, so let's say Chuck Yeager did supersonic thing in 1947, right? We are in the very recent past coming off a period of time where we would lose thousands of our youth every day, right?
Every day, yeah.
On the beaches of the Pacific,
Yeah.
Normandy, et cetera, right? I mean, we're coming off a world war, so I think society was a little more willing to accept losses.
Yeah.
Also, the complexity and the cost of the aircraft now are such that you can't afford to lose your prototype, because then the entire program will go away.
So they're caring about the aircraft now.
No.
I don't want to be cynical, but my dad had terrible PTSD. That's why I'm asking.
Well, there used to be,
And as a doctor.
yeah, there used to be a lot more unknowns then, by the sacrifice of losing a test pilot a week and all the different programs that were going through at the time. You didn't have one program taking 10 or 20 years to be developed. You had multiple programs, lots of testing. Well, a lot was learned in all of that. And some of that is fed into.
Yeah. The ability to simulate is.
What's the mortality rate for test pilots today?
In the Society of Experimental Test Pilots, so that's worldwide, we'll probably have maybe 2 fatalities a year in flight tests. Worldwide. All of the flight tests everywhere. Yeah, it's very low. It is very low.
They don't have straps on their luggage.
And, you know, we can't say we're gonna go to war and lose 50,000 men, right? I mean, we went to the Gulf War, we lost 98, 99 in the first Gulf War, and that was considered unacceptable. So it's a different mindset as well.
So it's a big improvement, and the generals in the Pentagon that make the policies,
Well, I can't say that. I'm not lucky to still be alive, so.
the great guardian angels.
Yeah.
Doesn't like having a test pilot school in general, like mitigate it, because they learn how to be safe?
It does, and it's a very good point, is the discipline of the flight test and the safety aspects of planning for missions is a big thing that's changed. The Society of Experimental Test Pilots was started by a bunch of guys who were tired of seeing their buddies die.
1957.
And they all get together and say, hey, what can we do to keep keep from killing each other off?
Sharing the knowledge,
Yeah, share the knowledge, the lessons learned. Don't do that because I almost died doing
Well,
it.
if you go back to the movie The Right Stuff, and if you take it as gospel, they had a scene where Chuck Yeager just decides, hey, I want to go take this plane and just take it out and see what can be done. And I don't think you operate that way anymore.
We don't. That's probably not a bad characterization of the way the general operates.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll just leave it there. I have some presentations for JB, and this is a lovely painting by Michael Castine of your beautiful Cessna 195.
Hey, all right.
But I want you to have this.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
That's going to go over the bed. Sorry, honey.
No, that's, our bedroom is full of airplane pictures. And I also have, though you didn't fly the U-2, I don't think, have a bottle of wine commemorating anniversary of the Dragon Lady. But it's Lockheed, at least.
Yeah.
And,
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you very much. Thanks for putting up with me.
Great job.
There's 195 out there that is welcoming people to take a look at it.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely, go take pictures. Beautiful airplanes on the ramp today. How many employees?